The future is awesome.
Hey Futurists, it's your favorite futurista, Miss Metaverse here, welcoming you back to another exciting episode of P2P on Awesome Future TV. If you haven't yet heard the word on MMTP, aka the Major Mouse Testing Program, well, you're in luck. Today we're going to learn about what MMTP is, we're going to discuss anti-aging and the biotech industry, we are going to talk about why you need to check out the crowdfunding campaign on lifespan.io right now. All right, so joining me from the UK is Steve Hill, project lead at MMTP. Hey, Steve.
How you doing? And I wouldn't rush off to check it out right now, because obviously they're going to miss this.
You can check it out after the video. Yeah, right. Also joining me from Moscow, we have the very lovely project coordinator, Elena Milova. Hello, Elena.
Hi.
Welcome, welcome. All right, so let's get into the good stuff. So first and foremost, what does MMTP stand for, besides the Major Mouse Testing Program? What does it actually stand for? Steve, please tell us.
What does it stand for? It stands for science and discovery. Well, it's essentially a mouse testing program. We're looking into longevity interventions and ways to extend healthy lifespan. In a nutshell, that's what it's all about, and to help the translation of therapies to us. That's it. It's that simple.
So, all right, when we think about anti-aging today, right? For the public, mostly, we hear anti-aging, we think about topical creams or things we could buy at a drugstore, supermarket, things like that. You know, it's all external. But what does it mean to actually reverse aging? What is the difference from a science perspective?
Well, I mean, the difference between things like creams and you know, L'Oreal and all this sort of business is, well, the science stuff that we're doing actually works, or it should do. We're actually focusing on the mechanisms of aging. Aging is a sort of a multifactorial process, and there's lots of different things that cause aging and cause dysfunction. What our research is doing is looking at each of these different sorts of aspects and asking the questions. Well, you know, can we do something about it? Is it amenable to intervention? The great news is science is increasingly showing that a lot of the processes in aging most certainly are. I mean, stem cells is a classic example. You know, of aging. As you get older, you sort of lose a lot of your stem cell population. You have a sort of finite amount. And as you get older, it runs out, and you lose the ability to sort of repair yourself as well as you could. Well, stem cells are a prime example of replacing what is lost to improve overall health and regeneration. That's something that we're looking at doing in the near future. You know, along with the other processes of aging, like the build-up. This particular campaign is about the build-up of toxic cells or senescent cells that no longer divide in the body, and that wouldn't necessarily be a problem in itself, but the problem is they send out lots of very toxic signals, and it effectively poisons all the neighbouring cells, it helps shut down stem cells, and stops your body repairing itself. So that's another mechanism of aging that the MMTP is particularly focused on. In this campaign, that's what it's all about. But, you know, we've done a lot of work because there's a lot of things to do in aging, so wish us luck. But we're looking at least two of the big reasons here, and there are plenty of other people looking at the other things. And we're going to join up the dots. We're going to get work from other people, ultimately put it all together, and we're going to see if it works.
That's excellent. I can't wait to see and hear more about this. And so, Elena, let's go a little bit more deeper into this. From your perspective, how do you feel that MMTP could help the anti-aging industry?
Well, the problem is that there are more than 200 promising interventions which are not yet tested in animals, but the animal testing is a very important step in the process of drug and therapeutics development. If we don't have enough robust animal data, this basically means that we cannot go into clinical trials, and ultimately this means that people cannot benefit from new therapies because they just cannot get approved by the regulatory authorities, and they cannot enter the market. So as we know, according to our studies of different bottlenecks and barriers, as we know, this particular case is very important to solve before we actually can speak about slowing down aging on population level. I mean, to make it massive, we must provide people with as many interventions as we can. And the only way to make it, well, to allow the more and more animal studies and clinical trials and more interventions entering the market.
Excellent. So let's talk about the stars of your show, your mice, okay? Because the major mouse testing program is going to be about mice, right? You're studying the effects of these anti-aging therapies on mice. So are there any kind of special mice that you're using for this, or are they just any kind of mice and you're putting them together?
Well, as much as I wish we could just pop down the local pet shop and grab a whole bunch of them, they're not really suitable, unfortunately. Otherwise, we could do science really cheap. I will say, when people say, is there anything special about the mice we're using the type of mice called black 6. This is there's a very good reason for that, because they're really not very special at all. For lab mice, they're very standard. There's a very large percentage of experiments worldwide use this particular mouse, and interestingly, it was actually the second species in the world to be sequenced fully. So we understand exactly how this particular strain of mouse reacts and how it works. If there was a standard currency for mice, the black 6 would be it. So the very thing that makes it special is the fact that it's not special. So, which is very useful for research, especially into longevity, because you can get a lot of specialized mouse breeds that have certain genetic characteristics that they might be more prone to, Alzheimer's type symptoms, or they might be more prone to cancer, and they've been specially bred to have certain characteristics. But we don't want that in longevity at all, because we don't want anything like that to influence the results we get. So we chose the most boring, dull, standard mice possible in terms of lab mice, because in doing so it will give us the best results. So that's it really in a nutshell.
That's great. So I guess this is another question I've been thinking about too. I mean, why do we use mice for research drugs for humans?
It's a good question, and a lot of people often ask me that. In fact, I've actually been asked that very question this morning on Reddit, would you believe. There was quite a debate about this particular matter, and they were trying to basically poo-poo the idea, and I said, well, there's a very good reason why we've used mice for over 100 years. The first off is we do share 95% of our genes with mice, so they've got a lot of things in common with us. We share the same sort of organs, the same systems. So systemically, we're not exactly the same, but we're very similar. So when we test things in mice, particularly at a mechanistic level like we are with senolytics, because all animals get a senescent cell burden that builds up with age, mice included as well as us, when we attack the mechanism and it has positive results in mice, and it has, we're probably going to be able to draw a good conclusion that it would work quite well in humans. So that's why we use mice. There are lots of reasons why mice are used, and obviously there are alternatives and analogues, like there's in silico. There are lots of synthetic methods that are now coming to the fore for testing, and that's great because it does help reduce the need to use animals for medical study, and that's really important. We need to reduce how much we use animals, but for the kind of things we're doing, like lifespan studies, it's just not possible to use analogues. We need to study an actual living system. So that's some of the reasons why animal testing will always be part of science for the foreseeable future. It's just too useful and too valuable not to do.
And is there an amount of mice that you are aiming to study, like let's say 2,000 mice or anything like that?
2,000 mice?
I don't know. You have to tell us.
Well, if you gave me 2,000 mice, black 6 mice, and said, here you go, I'd be like, is it Christmas already? I mean, 2,000 mice. I mean, there are studies that probably involve those kind of numbers, but that is a lot. Our particular experiment proposes to use 120, and we're going to divide those into 3 groups. We've got a control. A control group obviously is a standard thing. It has to happen. We've got the test group, and then what we're hoping as a stretch goal to increase, to add to the experiment, is what we call a positive control. The positive control is an extra sort of level of quality control. We will be using we're actually going to use caloric restriction, or dietary restriction as it's correctly called, and we reduce the amount that the mice eat. Not harmful, but it's been shown to predictably extend lifespan by about 20 to 25%. And because it's such a very consistent figure, and this is across multiple mouse strains, it serves as an excellent sort of quality control to double confirm what the control is saying, that the facilities and the procedures in the lab are good, and therefore the lifespan study is of an excellent quality, and that means we can trust the results from the test group. So if we get this analytics group and it's suddenly like, whoa, this mouse lives 40% longer with this combination, we know it's not an anomaly. We know very strongly that, you know, that this data can be trusted. So, you know, that's what we're going to do. We're going to divide it into the 3 groups, just to explain it. And of course, if we raise more, the hope really is if we go over 60, we will then add additional mice, because the more, quite simply, the more we raise, the more we test. The more we test, the better the chance of a discovery, and the quicker we can go. And it's as simple as that. It's a numbers game.
Right. And that actually brings me to my next question. I was wondering, you know, do any of these mice end up being harmed during these types of studies? You know, specifically in your study, will any of the mice be harmed in the study?
I mean, it is a concern, and a lot of, you know, nobody I know that is a particular fan of animal cruelty. I mean, I love animals, and I wouldn't want to hurt an animal. In our particular, speaking about our particular study, what we've chosen, the types of interventions or compounds we're testing, they're very infrequent. I mean, we're talking about, in previous research, a dose lasted 6 months of benefits. So we won't be administering doses on a daily basis. Because it's a lifespan study, it's absolutely critical that we provide the best living facilities, the best diet. Toys and things for their entertainment in the cages are also a must, because it's been shown that that actually affects lifespan. If you don't provide engaging, stimulating facilities for the mice, believe it or not, it can actually negatively impact the lifespan. So the ultimate aim in lifespan studies is to provide a very stable, peaceful environment so that the mice are not stressed, and that's exactly what we're doing. So we're keeping hands up as much as possible. The only interaction really with the mice would be to obviously feed them, clean them, and the you know, the sort of general maintenance and care that animals need, and then a very infrequent for the test group, a very infrequent dose. And even the delivery method is not stressful. We've avoided things like tail vein injections and some of the other things that are less desirable because they cause stress. So what we've gone for is actually we will treat the mice, and we use the food to actually introduce the drugs to them, so that they're not stressed. In fact, anything to keep the stress down is absolutely top priority for us. And you know, I can see why mouse studies get a bad rap, because you know, the cosmetics industry is infamous for some of the well, horrible things that they do to mice. And I mean, I will state that I'm absolutely against those sorts of experiments, and I wouldn't want to be part of that. But what we're doing is very ethical, and we're trying to reduce the amount of mice that we need, and we do care for animals a great deal. We're not going to harm animals, and if they keep living, we're not going to, like in some experiments where they might euthanize the mice after a certain amount. If they're still alive after 827 days, which is a 25% increase in lifespan, then we will just keep caring for them, and we will keep on until obviously they pass away. You know, we're not going to do anything like that. That would be unethical.
You know, maybe we could step up the crowdfunding campaign with like a stretch goal that if you donate like $20,000 or something like that, that you get to have one of the mice as a pet.
Well, it'd be a very old mice, but you can actually. That brings me on to a related subject. In the campaign, we are offering the chance to actually name your own mouse and follow their progress. So that's one of the reward possibilities. And I've actually got a bit of a friendly bet with a colleague of ours from a colleague of mine from another part of the International Longevity Alliance. Has made a sportsman's bet that his mouse will live longer than mine, and I've decided to take him up on that offer. His name of the mouse is to be confirmed, but I may be able to confirm that my mouse has the name of Lazarus Pitt, and for anybody that anybody is a geek will understand the reference. But look out for my mouse, Lazarus Pitt. But I'm going to win that. I'm going to win that bet.
Is there a Mighty Mouse though?
There isn't a Mighty Mouse. We've got a Major Mouse, who's a fictional character, but no, we don't have a Mighty Mouse yet.
All right.
Yeah, we've had quite a good uptake on Name a Mouse. We were quite surprised. We didn't think people would go for it quite so much, but it's proved very popular. So yeah.
Yeah, and are you gonna put like all the names of the mice somewhere? From after the campaign's done?
I think what we'll do is when we set it up, we're hoping to sort of do a little photograph of each one and put it up on the website, and then give sort of semi-regular updates. And the researchers have said that they will be able to give us updates, and and perhaps we'll do some broadcasts, and we'll ask them how's little Lazarus doing, or how's this, I don't know.
Yeah.
The more we can sort of engage with people, the better. And we're really big on sort of transparency and being as open as possible. If people really are interested in and want to know more, then we'll quite happily tell them more. We just don't want to sort of bore people, But all our stuff's on the website. We've also we've published a experimental protocol. Because people were asking, we were like, yeah, sure, you can have a look at our experimental design. You're most welcome to do so. So if the people want it, we'll do it.
Excellent. It's so exciting. Yes. Can't wait to hear more. Yeah, Elena.
Yeah, I just was about to say that actually we try to make this campaign not just a crowdfunding, like others, when people just gather money for some other experiments to promote some longevity technologies, but also we try to make this kind of an educational campaign, because we know that there is a huge deficiency of knowledge about aging and longevity, and what we want to give people an opportunity to learn as much as possible during this campaign. So if you will check the campaign page at lifespan.io, you will see that in every update, we add some new information about aging and longevity, some new links to some different resources telling about this problem. We add the links to the articles, sometimes scientific, sometimes philosophical. We add the links to different books related to life extension, etc. So we really wanted to be a step forward, not just in scientific research, but also in the level of population enlightenment, if you want.
Great, great. Yeah, I mean, it's so funny when you said before, Steve, about your name, Lazarus Pitt, for the mouse. It reminds me of, Brad Pitt, and then I think Anti-Aging, The Curious Case of Benjamin Button, which brings me to another question of mine. We've all seen movies like The Curious Case of Benjamin Button, and, in that movie, the main character, Benjamin, he's born old and then he dies a baby, right? So, Steve, do you believe that within, say my lifetime, knock on wood, I can go back to looking like my teenage or 20-something self again? Is it possible or not?
It's a bit of a loaded question, really. Ask most scientists, and they'll be really tentative about it. I think we can be sort of. I mean, I wouldn't like to really put an exact number. I know some people like Ray Kurzweil say, "Oh, we will have this in 10 years," or put an arbitrary figure on it. But what I will say is things like Senolytics, that we're researching, and other groups like Unity and Zion Biotech, they're going into it in a big way, and they're entering clinical trials. things like this are going to start arriving very soon, and it's going to be a lot sooner than people really think. During my travels on the internet, and I go all sorts of interesting places, and I do often hear people say, "Oh, poo-poo, we'll never get aging under control," or "not in my lifetime." And I go, well, that doesn't really make sense, because the amount of data that's coming out, and nearly a week doesn't pass now where I'm seeing something else or another breakthrough, another piece of the puzzle. I think the odds are extremely in our favour that we'll start seeing results within the next few years. Senolytics, certainly. I think Senolytics is going to hit the market big time. It's going to enter clinical trials probably within the next year, certainly with Unity. Zion a little bit longer, perhaps. I don't know. I'm not sure what's going on there. But I think we're going to start seeing senolytic therapies arriving within the next 2 to 3 years, and that is proper regenerative medicine in a way. It certainly addresses a lot of the underlying processes. Chronic inflammation is a major driver of aging. I think we'll start seeing some robust therapies. If you said 10 years, will we see aging under complete control? Not sure about that, but I think a lot of aspects of aging will be. Stem cells are already here, senolytics, things like amyloid clearance, things like the plaques with Alzheimer's and atherosclerosis. That is enjoying a bit of a renaissance. There's a project called GAIM, E-A-I-M, and that's been heavily funded by the Michael J. Fox Foundation for Parkinson's. They found that GAIM can remove amyloids associated with Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, amyloidosis, CJF. It removes a lot of these plaques which build up and cause dysfunction, strokes, neurodegenerative disorders, and that has been going for 3 years, and it's going great guns. I think we're going to see. I think we're going to see some really interesting with the next sort of 5, certainly within the next 10 years. A lot of this stuff's going to be mainstream, and a lot of people who are poo-pooing it are going to be very surprised, for definite. But then, but to be fair, they don't see the research, they're not actively involved in it, and they just don't realise what is possible and, how close we are in many areas.
Right.
Well, how close we are is actually depending on the rate, how fast the new technology can come from the laboratory to the general market. And this is normally a number around 15 years, 15 to 16 years normally. It takes the medical technology to come to the market. So we can say for sure that the technologies that already exist in the laboratory, they will appear on the market in the next 10 years. This is a really great. But concerning the longevity technologies, there is another question we have, another problem we have to solve. This is the fact that actually aging as a disease is not yet introduced in the international classification of diseases. And this is what actually my colleagues in the International Longevity Alliance are working on, together with the representatives of the scientific community, of course. The idea is very simple. If we have the aging as a disease introduced in the ICD-11 in the next year, for instance, then we open the door for all the developers of longevity therapies to test them and register them as such. I mean, exactly for aging prevention, not for single diseases as it is done right now, but exactly for aging prevention. And this step is very important because without it, we cannot help the doctors to prescribe these new therapies to healthy middle-aged people. And we all must understand that right now, actually, most of the therapies against aging existing in the form of the registered drugs, they are mostly available only to people who already have some manifested or related diseases, while actually healthy people cannot get these therapies even if they know about them and even if they want to use them as a form of self-experiment. It's very hard. And it's, of course, this approach is well-grounded because the first thing that we want is safety for all people. We must know how exactly healthy organism is reacting to all these therapies. We must know a lot about adverse effects, etc. So what we really want is to get all these longevity therapies, the emerging technologies tested and introduce it as a normal in a normal process, regulatory process for new medical interventions. But to do so, we really need aging as a disease to be recognized as a disease and introduced into ICD level.
Excellent. Very good. Very exciting things. Now, here's a question I'm going to throw out at you. What would it look like to receive a anti-aging therapy? I know it's a broad question, but do you think that these would be in the form of medications like pills, or would we have a shot, or would it be in our food like the mice are going to have? What do you think it would be like, Elena?
Well, right now the approach to preserve your health towards the old age is normally a combination of healthy lifestyle choices and also some supplements and drugs available and known to extend healthy period of life. But well, in future, I believe in the nearest future we probably will see, as Steve already have said, we will see stem cell therapies to enter our everyday life. I believe it will be one of the first big steps forward, because right now there is a lot of experiments with the stem cells, with modulating the cell cycles, with tissue regeneration, etc. And by the way, a few days ago, I was talking to a person who is involved in the clinical trials to regrow thymus gland. As you probably know, thymus gland is very important for our immune system, but sadly, during the life course, there is an atrophy, age-related atrophy, and our immunity start to deteriorate. So this person is now involved in the clinical trial to test a new intervention able to help the thymus gland to regrow, to be regenerated to the level as it was in the middle age. And certainly it will be very interesting to see the results. I cannot say right now what we are going to see, but this is one of the examples of the new therapies which will be able to enter the market very, very soon.
Great, excellent. All right, so let's wrap up by talking about your crowdfunding campaign, because that's what this is all about today. Right now, we're all showing our support for MMTP, and we want to share this information. What's going on with the crowdfunding campaign? Where are you guys at now, Steve?
Well, we're doing pretty well, actually. We've had a lot of interest initially in the campaign. I'm sure there'll be a link somewhere. But we've almost got almost $28,000 in 15 days, which is good, which is great news. Just to go back previously, just about the question before, I wanted to add that I think you'll see some of these therapies starting to arrive sooner.
I'm hearing a real echo right now. Sorry.
Oh, who's got the echo? Oh, it's Elena. Elena.
Okay. It's okay.
Yeah, losing track there because I keep hearing myself and I'm like,
hello. All right, so let's go back to what we're talking about. We're talking about the crowdfunding campaign, and where are you at now? You're up to $28,000, and what's your campaign goal?
Well, more than that. I mean, our immediate, we've got an immediate goal of 45,000, so we're well on the way to achieving that. 45 is really the minimum we can use to do meaningful science, good solid science. There's no point trying to do it on a shoestring, so we're going to go for that, and then but 60. Ultimately, we want at least $60,000 to really do it justice. If we get more, not only will we'll be very delighted, of course. Then, as I said earlier, we will add more mice, so we can do more work, and we can go faster. So, really, sky's the limit. I mean, so if you know any rich millionaires or philanthropists who want to give me a call, yeah. I'm talking to you, Elon Musk. Yeah, give me a call.
Call me too, Elon.
Yeah, I mean, the sky is the limit, really. I mean, we've got plenty of things that we can do. I'll give you an idea of some of the things that we've got planned. This is only the first phase. We've got lots of things in subsequent test phases. If we earn enough, we'll bring those forward. We'll start them sooner. So we've got things like senolytics that we're looking at now to remove the toxic cells. What we can do with that is we can combine that with stem cell therapies. That's what we want to do in the next step. If we earn enough, or we raise enough, we can begin that work a lot sooner. You know, the sky's the limit, really. What else can we do? I mean, to go back to the point about the thymus that Elena had mentioned, a friend of mine, Greg Fahey, is running that trial, and it's looking very promising. But there are other ways and other approaches that could potentially be used for the thymus. We can use stem cells. Amy Wager's lab recently showed that thymus stem cells, TECs, could literally be implanted in the thymus. And they found out that, this is in a mouse, they found out it was very interesting that for a very short period, the newly implanted cells, the young stem cells, actually guided the growth of the thymus for a very short period. And when they implanted them, they found out that the thymus started to grow again for a little while, and the T cells that it was producing, like the immune system cells, were functionally young. This is really interesting because this is age reversal of an organ. This is something that we could do. We could look at, as a follow-on project, as a follow-on thing, we could look at thymus rejuvenation using stem cells, and that's something that a researcher has talked about, and it's very interesting. So we could actually, you know, we could start building towards that too. Sky's the limit, really. We've got lots of things that we could do. All we need really is the budget. You know, the more we earn, the more we do. It's as simple as that.
Excellent. And Elena, yes. Oh, yes.
So far, I believe we are very successful, and I'm very happy to admit that we are receiving an enormous support from our community. And probably one of the best things during the last week was 3 huge contributions from 3 gold donors, gold sponsors. And one of them is a representative of pro-longevity community from Brazil. His name is Arthur Helstein Fragoso. I'm sorry if I don't pronounce it correct. Another one is a longevity supporter and entrepreneur from Russia. His name is Andrei Ulitin. And another one is a venture angel who actually was involved in helping MitoSense, the previous project of Lifespan.io. His name is Leon Apel, and he's from Canada. And so this simple example is just to illustrate that we are actually receiving the support from many countries in the world, and this is amazing. This gives us so much feeling. This is so rewarding to see that our work is so much appreciated by many people.
Excellent. Great. So is there anything else that you guys want to talk about before we go?
Yes, we actually have several questions to you.
Oh, it's an ambush.
No.
You weren't expecting that, were you? It's a two-way conversation.
All right.
It's time to interview you.
Oh, yeah. All right. Seriously. Well, you know what? I mean, of course, we could always have you guys back. We could always talk more. Super exciting stuff. And don't forget to check out lifespan.io. That is where you will find the Major Mouse Testing Program's awesome crowdfunding campaign, and contribute what you can. Every little bit counts, and we look forward to creating an awesome feature. Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Elena. Thank you for hanging out with us today, and I look forward to it.
Thank you very much. It was very nice to talk to you today. Yeah, I'll get help. Sorry about that.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Thank you so much for a great interview, and I look forward to seeing how your campaign goes.
Thank you very much.
All right, take care. Bye.
the future is awesome.